My name is Bill. Welcome to the Night Terrors Weekend Show. And we're starting right now. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I had to delete the chat from Twitch because it was filling my screen. Good, I'm not playing anything else right now. So I'm going to have to restore that chat now. You're just going to have to give me a minute here. Let's see, where is it? Where's it going to be? Not here. It's going to be here. Okay, let's just, hopefully it won't mess up again. I have to pop out the chat. No, where do I do it? Where's the pop out? Here it is. Pop out chat. Okay. Thanks for waiting. Let's reduce this, right? Yeah, we'll reduce this. And can everyone see me? YouTube is live. Thank you, Elder. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, folks. I could not see the screen to start the show, and the same screen you're seeing at home is the one I have to see to run the show. Chat was filling the whole screen exclusively. I still don't know how to turn it off. I had to end the task. I was begging for help. Welcome, David Rice Jr. Welcome, Taoist Viewer the First. Good to see you again, Tao. Right bottom of the screen, there's an exit full screen option. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't there. Elder, thank you for the super chat. Elder said, elbows and keyboards should never meet. That's how I obliterated the beginning of tonight's show. But we shall now proceed. Our first suggestion. Well, let's go to first my Banned by YouTube series. Right over here. Drops an episode every Wednesday morning. YouTube made me take down 3 years of my videos. They're no longer on the channel. The only way you can see them is to catch them on Wednesday. If you value what I do on the Night Terrors streams, I got to rewrite this thing, and in the Night Terrors videos, one way to support the channel is through Patreon. Become a patron of the show. You do that by clicking on the Patreon link in the description below. Thank you for supporting the show. Welcome to Eldergone and Takahama Plateau. Welcome to It's Linda's. It's Lynn's. It's Lynn's is asking, what movie are we watching tonight? We are watching the Night Terrors Weekend Show. Welcome, It's Lynn's. All right, so let's get started. Our first suggestion is from Elder. I do have that ready, at least. And that is, where is it? Where to go? Where to go? It's still there, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and I need to put this up here, I guess. Yeah, there we go. Elder's having a good time out there. Welcome, PETA. PETA says, hello, Bill and friends. Good to see you too, Tao. And that from Elder is a link, a direct link. So we're going to paste that in here. Let me just delete everything. So I only paste in one URL instead of 3 or 4. Okay. And here we go. Welcome, Greety. Here at the New York Post, there's an article by Patrick Riley entitled Three-Fingered Alien Mummies Found in Peru Have Fingerprints that do not appear to be human. Report. Mr. Riley begins. These are not playing sound, are they? Good. Try to ignore all the dancing media in the background. They're still trying, and I'm still trying. They're still trying to put their finger on this mystery. Humanoid three-fingered alien mummies discovered in Peru last year have straight fingerprints that do not match those of humans. according to an attorney who reviewed one of the controversial specimens. Joshua McDowell, a former Colorado prosecutor and current defense attorney, examined one of the tiny, strange bodies, the one named Maria, with 3 independent forensic medical examiners from the U.S. He and the experts were shocked to discover that the fingerprints of the ET-like corpses were in perfectly straight lines. He said, "These were not traditional human fingerprint patterns. I think you call our patterns swirls or whirls, I think. Whirls. We did not see any loops or whirls on the prints of the fingers or on the toes," he said. "I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I've seen lots of fingerprints. And these were not classic fingerprints." I'd like to see a picture. Here's a picture of one of the mummies. Ooh, they did x-ray of the hands. I got to see a close-up of that x-ray. The caption reading, "The corpses have 3 elongated fingers on each hand." I guess there's 2 corpses, perhaps? Katie S., welcome, dear. Let's open in a new tab here. Not link, open image. There we go. That's pretty, that's a pretty damn good, that's a pretty damn good and convincing x-ray right there. One curled during mummification, I take it. 1 or 2. Or 3. Oh, it's creepy. Ew. Its lens says it looks like paper mache. Yeah, but look at what's inside. These look like real x-rays. Wow. And that, of course, I didn't count the number of times I expanded the other one. We're going to call it this much. More than half of a dozen of the so-called alien mummies were revealed by controversial Mexican journalist Jose Jaime Musan, who presented his findings to Mexico's Congress. McDowell and the U.S. medical examiners traveled to Musan to Peru last April to study the bodies. While the lack of human fingerprints is puzzling, he said it would be extremely premature to make any statements about the mummy's origins. One possible explanation for the unusually straight fingerprints could possibly have something to do with the way the skin was preserved, he said, noting that it's very odd. Maria's body is covered in diatomaceous earth, a type of white powder made from the sediment of fossilized algae found in bodies of water. Maybe they were underwater at one point, or under the water table. This caption reading, "The mummies were found in the Nazca region of Peru, near the Nazca lines." However, on the fingers that were exposed, he said, the epidermal ridges that I saw appeared to be mostly straight lines. While no official determination has been made regarding the nature of the humanoid bodies, McDowell said he still spends hours on the case. McDowell, a former deputy DA in Colorado's 4th Judicial District, took a city coroner from Denver and a forensic anthropologist from Maryland State Medical Examiner's Office to South America to investigate. He also brought his father, Dr. John McDowell, a forensic, odontologist, forensic odontologist. I guess that has to do with teeth. And retired professor at the University of Colorado, who assisted in identifying human remains after the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. There's one of the mummies behind glass. The caption here, the Ministry of Culture of Peru denied the theory of other scientists who maintained the mummies were aliens, and that in reality they were parts of other animals. What parts of other animals looks like human fingers? The 4-foot-tall aliens, dubbed the Nazca mummies, after the region in Peru where they were discovered, made international headlines for their elongated heads and 3-fingered hands, resembling something out of Star Trek, writes the author. Musan has been adamantly declaring that the specimens were extraterrestrial, despite pushback from scientists and the government, who say they're nothing more than a man-made hoax. In January, Peruvian authorities said they were dolls, patched together with paper, glue, metal, and human and animal bones. Forensic archaeologist Flavio Estrada told reporters, "They are not extraterrestrials. They are not aliens." But just take a look at that X-ray. What? It's over here. Ah. Where does he say they are not? There we go. We're right here. So we're picking up there, and here's the picture. That does not look like it's pieced together. That does not look pieced together to me. That looks like a real X-ray. If it's pieced together, you're going to see, like, for example, the old Barnum and Bailey's mermaid that was made partially from an ape primate, I guess, for the head, and a fish tail, I imagine. Let's find out. I think we may need the help of AI. Let's put that here. Where is AI? There it is. And we turn on the dragon. Tell me about the famous Barnum and Bailey circus exhibit that was a mermaid and what it was actually made of. And what was it called? We can look up a picture. A monkey and a fish, says Eldergrown. You're thinking of the Fiji mermaid. It became one of the most famous sideshow attractions of the 1800s. It started being exhibited by the circus in 1842, where it was promoted as the preserved corpse of a real mermaid caught near the Fiji Islands. It drew enormous crowds because of its eerie, convincing appearance and the way Barnum hyped it up. It was not a whole creature at all. It was a taxidermy composite, most likely created in Japan and sold through sailors. The upper half was a dried monkey's torso and head. The lower half was the tail of a fish. Salmon or similar. Salmon get big. Welcome, Rhino Rex. Thank you, Gotcha Man, for the suggestion. We're going to move it up here so I know where it is. And let me notate that you are in the list. Oh, there's more than one. Groovy. Okay, we got it. Thank you, G-Man. And where were we at? We're going to look up that Fiji mermaid. The tail of a fish, often a salmon, it says. I think I'm hallucinating there. Welcome to Pedro Rojas Cervantes. Or Cervantes. Welcome to Feathers. Good to see you, ma'am. Gotcha Man says, I came prepared for tonight. Let's see that Fiji mermaid. Misspelled, of course, because back in the 1800s, I didn't think they expected the people to know how to pronounce Fiji. If they saw it printed, probably not many people knew about the Fiji Islands. Cervantes, not Cervantes. Let us go to that picture, if we can find one. Hopefully we'll get one from the 1800s. Yeah, there it is. Well, today. We have an old picture of it. Yeah, here's how they spelled it. The Fiji mermaid. They also misspelled the islands. I don't see it in this part of the article. It looks like that's all that's reproduced of the article. This looks like the same thing, the Harvard Crimson. It looks like the same thing. There's the Fiji mermaid, close up. So I assume they had a way to make this, the join appear seamless. Well, that's the real thing. Resolution's not too bad. Let's open a new tab here. Monkey, salmon. Although that doesn't look like salmon scales to me. Maybe it looks more like an artist's impression of half of a fish. So maybe it was, but that was probably a monkey over here. Welcome, Squirrel Sniper. Squirrel Sniper says, greetings, beautiful souls from across the pond, but under the same skies. Welcome back, Squirrel. We need to go back to the article. Just right here. One critic, and we don't want to do debunking, do we? Maria does not resemble, Maria is the name of the one of the alien mummies in Peru, does not resemble some of the other smaller specimens, according to the Daily Mail. The fingerprint analysis suggests some of the mummies are either not dolls or were constructed of some other strange material. So that's half of a confirmation right there. Elder says he doesn't think there were any contemporary photos. That would make sense, it being the 1800s. And photography not being all that common. And I assume Barnum and Bailey probably is not going to grant any photographer permission to take a picture of one of their most valuable exhibits. A team of 10 Mexican researchers found that 30% of the mummy's DNA is not human, but is rather from an unknown species. In March, a pair of filmmakers working on a documentary about different mummified remains claimed X-rays revealed that the mummies are not fake, although they may not be from another planet. They said they believe they could be evidence of a new species affected by genetic manipulation. McDowell, however, said earlier this year he wants actual, very definitive DNA studies done at high complexity laboratories before jumping to any conclusions. He said the carbon dating needs to be repeated with more sophisticated methods. Those are things that we're looking for. Our preliminary investigation really just led to the fact that more investigation is needed. The caves where the mummies were found were filled with pre-Hispanic artifacts and have become a target for grave robbers. And that's the end of that story. Ooh, animated advertisement. Well, let's not take a look at that. Okay, so we did, that's the mummies first. And I think we started at 6 after because of technical difficulties. It is now 27 after. And the next topic is from Green Tea. So we're going to have to duplicate this. Right, duplicate. And this we're going to have to go back a space. And plug in Green Tea's suggestion. The Sallie house. Oh, there's an actual link. Thank you, Green Tea. Let's plug that link in to a duplicate box. I want to keep that search engine there. Here at usghostadventures.com is a story entitled The Sallie House. I don't see the name of an author on the top. Nor at the bottom. And the anonymous author begins. Welcome. Book a room or tour. Not at this time. Can we X out? Yes. There are some residents in the U.S. whose names cannot help but send a shiver down your spine. Lizzie Borden's house. The Winchester Mystery Mansion. The Amityville Horror House. Yet when you ask many paranormal experts which home is the most haunted in the U.S., they give often the same answer, the Sallie House. Located in Atchison, Kansas. The Sallie House has earned the title of the most haunted house, the most haunted house in the country because of the intense and even violent outbursts of the ghosts that reside therein. While the name is a nod to the spirit of a young girl who died there, it seems other phantoms have latched on to the property as well, and they don't seem to want anyone to move back in. If sleeping amongst ghosts is your idea of an ideal getaway, check out our selection of haunted house stands. Or for a yet still spooky option that is shorter, book one of our ghost tours across the nation. That's why it doesn't list an author. The beginnings of the spectral activity at the Sallie House can be traced back to a single episode involving a doctor, a very sick girl, and a desperate yet gruesome attempt to save her. I hope it wasn't with bleed. Oh, no. I hope it wasn't. What do they call it? What do they call it when they bleed you? Isn't there a name for it? Welcome, Jonathan Hay. Jonathan A. asks, have you ever heard about the giant spiders of Antarctica? No, but you just made it on the suggestion list, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Copy that. Move it to a place of honor here on the list. Thank you, John. Phlebotomy, says Pedro. Thank you. Thank you. No, I'm thinking of the what they used to do, the old-time doctors. What they used to call call it? Let me ask AI. Exsanguination is bleeding out. Bloodletting. It might be bloodletting. Bloodletting was the medical practice, says Eldergrown. I'm going to take Elder's word for it. If you didn't know any better, you might walk right by the Sallie house without a second glance. 2 stories. White with blue trim. It looks like a typical family home that could be found in any neighborhood. But it isn't. The house was built between 1867 and 1871 by Michael Finney. Mr. Finney died in the house shortly after, in 1872, like just after he moved in, right? Took him 4 years to build it, and he got to enjoy it for less than a year. After this, his son, Dr. Charles Finney, took over the home. Charles was one of the few doctors in Atchison. His family lived upstairs. The front room acting as his medical office. In the early 1900s, medical care looked very different than it does today. Family physicians relied on all kinds of... I'm sorry, I'm skipping words here. I had too much coffee before the show. Family physicians were relied on for all kinds of ailments, including emergency medical situations. This was because towns like Atchison didn't have a hospital. In fact, Atchison didn't get its first hospital until 1914, despite having a population of over 15,000 people at the turn of the century. One fateful day, a desperate mother pounded on the doctor's door. Upon hearing her cries, the doctor immediately went to see who needed help. The patient was a 6-year-old girl named Sallie, who had collapsed from extreme pain in her stomach. The doctor realized the child had appendicitis, and her appendix was very close to rupture, and it would have been fatal. As quickly as possible, he took the girl to a bed and administered anesthesia. But believing she was mere moments from death, the doctor made the fateful decision to begin the operation before the anesthesia had taken effect. Oh my God. Little Sallie screamed in agony before suddenly going quiet. Her body now limp and lifeless. The doctor knew they were too late. Though he had tried his best, the doctor couldn't save poor Sallie. Now, wait a minute. There's a missing connection here. So he decides to begin the operation before the anesthesia takes effect. Then she screams in agony and goes quiet. Did she die of shock? Or did she die of a ruptured appendix? Let's ask AI. Sallie. Turn on, Dragon. What do you know of the Sallie house? We're going to have to correct that spelling. It's I-E and not Y. And the dragon still writing everything I say. And go. Poor kid, says T. Olson too. Gotcha Man says, Nurse, pass the chainsaw. Welcome, James Anderson. James hails from Taft, California. Well-known haunted house in Atchison. Even have the address. The basic story. Why it became famous. Okay, so let's ask, what was the cause? What was the cause of the child's death? Ruptured appendix or What? The story of how the little girl died depends entirely on which version you hear. None of it is historically documented. Here are the two main versions. One, most popular. In the story, Sallie woke up in pain during the procedure, panicked, and died, often said to be from shock or complications rather than the appendicitis itself. But some retellings say she died from the ruptured appendix. The reality, there are no records of debunking. T. Plateau says perhaps peritonitis. I thought that took a while to kill you. Sallie, in turn, has not left the place where she experienced the last traumatic moments of her young life. No one knew this, however, until the Pickman family chose this house as their new home in 1992. Deborah and Tony Pickman were newly married and expecting their first child. They found the 100-year-old home charming and decided to move in, decorating one of the 3 bedrooms upstairs into a sweet nursery. For a few months, they did not know anything out of the ordinary. Then some strange things started happening. Light bulbs going out over the oven. Nope, that's not what it says. Too much coffee. Light bulbs going out. The oven timer turning on by itself. Sometimes their cordless phone would go dead. And the next time they tried it, it would work. The Pickmans were not too worried at this point. They simply chucked it up to the wiring. One thing they could not explain, however, was why their typically calm dog would often bark and growl at the nursery. T. Plateau says you need more coffee. However, the first truly alarming incident happened shortly after their son Taylor was born. After being gone for the day, Tony and Deborah came home and went upstairs to put the baby to bed. However, when they walked in the nursery, they found all the baby stuffed animals arranged in a pile on the floor, instead of where they normally were on a chair. They were instantly uneasy, worried someone had broken in. They searched the house and found no one, so they put the toys back, put Taylor in his crib, and went downstairs. Yet when they reached the bottom of the steps, they saw the light in the nursery turn back on. Running up the stairs, they found one of the teddy bears on the floor again. They searched again, found no one, and tried to convince themselves they were imagining things. How do you convince yourself you're imagining something after that? I'd be calling the police at that point. Welcome, Kayla Rain. Kayla Rain says, "Hi, lovely humans. I'm so happy to catch this because for weeks, by like 3 minutes, I keep missing." Glad to have you, Kay. The light stayed off after that, but when Deborah peeked into the nursery a few minutes later, the bear was back on the floor. Now fully terrified, they called Tony's brother Larry to come over and try to figure out what was going on. Larry first got there, and nothing happened for a while. And they thought maybe the strange activity was done. After checking out the nursery again, and I totally lost my place. After checking out the nursery again, they all went downstairs, only to discover the teddy bear downstairs was now facing a different way. They all got freaked out and agreed it was best to leave the house for the night and stay at Tony's mother's house. This was when the family decided to bring in reinforcements. Larry reached out to a psychic he knew in California named Barbara. Despite not being in Kansas, she was able to offer some small bits of information over the phone. Number 1, there's a ghost in the house. Number 2, it's a young girl between 5 and 13. And her name is Sallie. At the same time, Larry was talking to the medium. Tony's mother had reached out to an old friend who used to live at the house at 508 North 2nd Street. Is that where they are now? 508 North 2nd Street. Wait, it was AI who told us. "508 North 2nd Street." The article just assuming we would know somehow. At the same time, Larry was talking to the medium. Tony's mother had reached out to an old friend who had lived at the haunted house. The woman said they never really had any issues. The only odd thing was that every once in a while, there would be a very sour smell in the house, and they could never find the source. Then she remembered that sometimes she'd have to scold her kids for leaving their toys lying out. The children always claimed it wasn't them. Looks like it was Sallie. The mother thought they were referring to an imaginary friend, so she dismissed her children and made them clean up the toys. How did the kids know her name? But now the Pickman family was getting 2 different sources saying that Sallie was present within their home. They didn't know what to do. After talking more with the psychic, she assured the Pickmans that Sallie was a sweet little girl, and she just wanted to play and feel like a part of the family. This calmed them down. The next day, another brother of Tony, his name's George, came over to see what all the commotion was about. George didn't believe in ghosts. So when Tony showed him the bear that had turned on its own downstairs, George suggested taking a photo with it. With it or of it. Tony said, "Sallie, if you're here, say cheese." As Tony pressed the shutter button, George saw the bear turn around. George yelled, and Tony ran downstairs to tell Deborah. Suddenly, George felt like he couldn't move any of his muscles. He was frozen in place, attempting with all his will to move. He finally regained control and ran upstairs after his brother. After hearing what happened, the couple decided to grab the baby and get out of there. As Tony desperately tried to get the baby buckled into the car seat, he felt sudden back pain. When they were safely at the family's house, I expect they mean the house they were at before. Tony went to inspect the source of the pain and was horrified by what he saw. 3 deep scratches that actually drew blood. You might be wondering why the Pickmans didn't pack up and move out at this point. Yeah, it's a famous Eddie Murphy joke. I love this house. People moving into a new house. I love this house. Oh, look. Look at the yard. Look at the beautiful kitchen. I can't think of a third thing. You got to have 3 things, though. Look at the veranda. Get out. Too bad we can't stay. Dinkamasi, welcome, sir. As new parents, they could not afford to move out. The house was in a good location, and they didn't want to spend all their waking days afraid of what lurked in their home. That's an and? No, it's a but. It actually is a but. So the psychic from California, Barbara, volunteered to come to Atchison to see the house for herself. After walking around, she assured the worried parents that Sallie was harmless. She said that while Sallie didn't like men, she believed Sallie had possibly been abused. She had only scratched Tony by accident, out of anxiety of them leaving. Barbara told the Pickmans to try to acknowledge and include Sallie, instead of ignoring her, because it might pacify the child's spirit. Deborah leaned into this idea fully, talking to Sallie and even buying her a doll. I hope their baby isn't a boy. Well, that's so misogynistic, Bill. That is a terrible thing to say. Strike that. I'm a jerk. I'm old too. And there was, but I make no apologies for my wretched upbringing. Not that I'm denigrating my parents. I am not. I honor my parents. Shortly after putting the doll into a chair, Deborah found the doll out of the package in Taylor's crib, while the box and gift wrap were undisturbed. You gotta be kidding me. Sallie teleported her gift into the baby's crib. Deborah quickly shifted her view, now feeling maternal and protective over her phantom adopted daughter. So when Tony would voice his skepticism, Deborah would quickly dismiss him. In fact, her strong change in opinion almost felt unnatural, like she was somehow being persuaded to think this way. T. Plateau. I might be able to use one more idea. T. Plateau, thank you. Looks like a really interesting conversation. No, it's about something else. I'm just looking at chat. While Deborah now felt at home, Tony started having a different experience in the house from his wife. He started to hear whispers around the house that Deborah couldn't hear. Over the next several months, the voices got louder, to the point where they would all be talking over each other so loudly that he couldn't understand what any of them were actually saying. I wonder if he wrote down what they said at first. He'd hear scratches from inside the walls. I got chills as I read that. And he started to feel like something was nibbling at his toes. It didn't hurt, but it wasn't comfortable. When he would try to tell Deborah about these experiences, she would dismiss them, saying it was just Sallie messing with him. Thank you, T. Plateau. Just allow me to move that over to the list. Then one night, the couple was having friends over. They were sitting at the dining table, and one of them noticed Tony's forehead began to bleed. They all looked over and watched as a deep scratch was etched into Tony's forehead by some invisible hand. Despite all these witnesses, Deborah doubled down that it was just Sallie playing with Tony. refusing to see reason. But then the physical phenomena escalated. Tony began having dreams where he was dragged out of bed, only to wake up in a cold sweat, with blisters around his wrists in the shape of small fingerprints. Tony had another dark dream, but this time he followed an unknown woman into the empty bedroom in their house. After speaking with Barbara, the Pickmans were met with a shock. There was another spirit in the home. A domineering older woman. While Barbara believed she was also harmless, it was becoming hard to ignore the abuse Tony was experiencing, especially because it was escalating. One night, Tony woke up to the older woman ghost just hovering over him. She was dressed in black. The entire room started shaking. She threatened to unalive him. Just as he went to put his hands around his throat, he woke up in bed. Deborah had not heard anything. A factor that was becoming particularly troubling was the baby. Taylor began waking up in the middle of the night with a shriek. It wasn't like a normal baby crying for attention. Soon after this, Deborah heard one of the toys in his room suddenly play a loud, inhuman-like static sound that hurt her ears. While she had been able to make up excuses for the things happening to her husband, it was harder to overlook these events happening near their baby. Another concerning recurring issue was that candles would light themselves. They let Sallie play with matches. Deborah tried to squash this by telling Sallie she had to stop. She could burn the house down. But Sallie wouldn't stop. And before long, other things were also randomly catching on fire. An oil lamp. And then another toy bear. This is a long story. So we're going to go to the next topic. It's 54 minutes past the hour. Our next topic being from Jonathan A. And that is, we should have a search somewhere here. Come on, get there. It's not clicking in. Why are you not clicking in? Thank you. Yeah, too much coffee for Bill. Giant spiders of Antarctica. Yes, please. May I have another? Wait, well, what? Oh, AI's got to debunk, of course. That's its default setting. What? What are we still? Where are we? Finish. Why are we only on AI? Where's the? Give us all, please. Thank you. Giant Antarctic spider. There's actually a video of them. You can find it on YouTube. Welcome, Synchro 505. Mike does all the incidental music for the show. The Antarctic Sun. Secrets of the Gigantic Sea. A giant spider filmed in the depths of Antarctica. We can see what one looks like. I hope they have a picture here somewhere. Ooh. How giant are we talking? 51 centimeters. I wish that was in English. "51 centimeters in inches." Didn't have to think too long about that one. 20 inches. Okay, for scale people. Where is it? Here? Here? Why is that there? Why is this here? Can we get rid of this? So it's 20 inches across, people. And 8 legs, like a spider's supposed to have. They're underwater spiders too, obviously, right? And they can abide in extreme cold. Wow. So in true arachnid fashion, they have 8 legs. I wonder if they're really spiders. Let's see if we can check out some other article on them. Okay, let's go to hub pages. Try that anyway. Antarctica allegedly has a giant prehistoric cryptid spider that will spawn nightmares. Antarctica is a fascinating, weird continent. It's an unwelcoming and inhospitable frozen land of ice and extreme temperatures. Income says it looks like a spider crab. Gotchaman says giant Alaskan bullworm. Synchro says, I think I saw one of those in my Panda Express. In February 2021, an image surfaced on Google Earth thread that appears to show a massive insect or spider-like creature on the frozen rocky ice sheets of Antarctica. A Reddit user said their father was stationed at a base in Antarctica in the 90s. And he said there are strict restriction zones all over the southern pole. He was reportedly the only doctor on base. And this source reveals that he had to perform pathology on deceased individuals. In other words, autopsies. What other pathology is there on deceased individuals? And discovered that a significant number of deaths appeared to have been caused by attacks from unknown creatures. Allegedly, the doctor was ordered to report the cause of death as hypothermia. Exit stage right on that ad. The Reddit user's father referred to these creatures as striders and described them as giant spiders the size of greyhound dogs. He claimed these cryptid apex predators were discovered in the ice and were somehow reanimated. Ooh, we have a picture from Elder Gone. Thank you, Elder. Ooh, right. There's your proof. Look at that. Incredible. Let's let everyone take a look here. Count the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. Yeah, looks like. The creatures were said to be living in the restricted no-go zone. As much as we love cryptids, blah 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 blah. It's all debunking. It's a debunking article. We don't like those. What else you got? Giant deep sea spider. Excellent volume in the chat tonight. Thanks for turning out, people. It's important. Giant sea spiders, Antarctica. They're surprisingly good fathers, as one of the articles says. Let's try the Independent. Or not. I'm looking for a what one might call a sleazy article. That's often the only place you'll find the truth. Thank you, Elder. Where is that thing? There it is. A penny dreadful, says Gotcha Man. Giant spider, giant spider. Antarctic giant spiders on TikTok. Here we go. I was searching for giant spiders in Antarctica. Ooh. Holy cow. Is that a moving picture? I thought I saw that move. I was searching for giant spiders in Antarctica on Google, and this picture came up. Once I saw what the arrow was pointing at, whoa. Yeah, it takes you a second to adjust to it, right? Count these steps again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only do 4. 4. Freaky. Dinkamasi says, that's a big'um. That's a biggin. My apologies, folks. I drank too much coffee tonight. Okay, next topic. At 4 minutes past the hour. And that was Jonathan's, right? Go to T Plateau. Who wishes information on a missing persons case. To it, Annabel Strzelecki. Looks like Strzelecki. Strzelecki. Annabel Strzelecki. Australia's Missing Persons Register. Let's go there. Here's me. I have to do a studio adjustment here. Pardon me, folks. That's all set. And that's opened up. No, that's not. Let's open it up now. Oh, I did open it up. I just didn't look at the right one. Right? Oh, there's a picture. Annabel Sabalano Strzelecki. The search for Annabel. Oh, there's the search. Like that Elvis Costello song. They're dragging the lake. What's the van got to do with it? Annabelle's home. Oh, yeah, we got to go 4 up, right? 4 up, 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can go down a little bit, I think. $200,000 reward. Let's solve this, people. On June the 5th, 1998, the 28-year-old Annabel Strzelecki met with friends at a residence in Clare. She's not been seen since then. Her husband states she left the house late on the night of the 5th of June in the company of 2 friends after she had a confrontation with him. I'm thinking maybe if you find out what he did that night, you might find out some interesting information. Thank you, Kayla Rain. She disappeared under suspicious circumstances, and the police suspect she has been unalived. Suspicion surrounds her husband, who died 2 years later. Further information is sought in this matter, including that which would lead to the recovery of her remains. Now, her husband claims he hasn't seen his wife since the early hours of June the 6th. She was in the company of a Filipina and a man who he'd not met before on that night. The couple had lived in Clare, South Australia since 1989. They married in the Philippines when she was 19, and Jim Strzelecki was a former opal miner, and he was 63 when they married. She 19. Major Crime Detective Inspector John Peake said the missing woman's disappearance was out of character. He said the fact she has not yet been discovered tends to show that she could have met with foul play. That's not to say she isn't alive and well out there somewhere. Annabelle's friends say she was totally devoted to her 2 children, and she wouldn't have left the marriage without taking them with her. Welcome, Tina T. Tina's one of the original gangsters of Night Terrors. Thank you, Tina. The children are being cared for by relatives in Adelaide. Reporter Penelope DeBell in The Age described the church service organized by Annabelle's friends like this. Quote, At the service of I'll just do it slower. At the service of remembrance at the Clare Uniting Church, a purple cloth was draped from the cross, and on this women pinned large black tears. Quote, One black tear we weep upon the cloth of sorrows. One black tear for all those women who have come to this land dreaming of a better life, only to find a nightmare. Quote, Filipino women from all over the district came to the service. I don't think that should be a quote. The cultural bonds are strong, and the Reverend Tony Eldridge says the women support each other. A close friend said she was a very gentle and loving mother. She was a generous person. She didn't have a lot, but what she did have, she always wanted to share. I had someone tap me for a beggar, basically, but it's the kind of, this happened today. It's the kind of beggar that will tell you a story before they ask you for money. And it's always with these beggars, it's they always want to keep you talking, because the more they can keep you talking, the more money they can get from you. And she was really good. She was really good. She had this really worried face. She came up really close to my driver's. I was parked. She came up really close to my driver's side window, and she was she was maybe, I don't know, 55, something like that. Very short. I could see her clearly, and even though I was just sitting in the car, I could see her clearly out the window. She was looking really worried. And I felt really sorry for her. I knew she was going to tap me. Uh, and I just felt so sorry for her. And she tells me that she lost her phone. And could I give her any money? And she looked so distraught. I knew she was just asking for a handout. So, smallest thing was a 10. Ouch. So I gave her a 10. And then she goes on to tell me the phone belonged to my dead boyfriend. I guess ultimately she maybe gets people to pay for the phone, or a new phone or something like that. But I just said to her, have a good one. And rolled the window back up. I'm so bad. But I was happy to give her the 10. She was good. She was really good. I don't know if you can make much money doing that, but I heard panhandlers make a pretty good penny. Panhandlers have the advantage of volume, though. And just walking through parking lots looking for marks, you're not going to really get the volume you need, unless you need a new phone. T. Plateau says, one asked me for money, and I said, you're asking a gypsy for money? Don't they say, what do they say these days? Something like Romanis, something like that. Romanis is not gypsies anymore, is it? That's on PC. I think it's Romanis now. Tina T says, I rarely have cash on me anymore. I'm so used to just using my card for everything. I would never even have any money on me for a beggar. Thank you, Tina. Elder says, I once gave a handout to a fellow with a hard luck story at the gas station. Before I left, I literally saw him walking out with a case of beer. I don't care what she spends it on. She was just so good. I felt so bad for her. Her look was so distraught. Help me. Annabel says, Annabel's husband says he hasn't seen his wife since she left the home in the early hours, supposing the company of a Filipina and a man he had not met before that night. The couple had lived in the Clare, South Australia area since 1989. They married when she was 19 and he was 63. Let me skip ahead. We talked about the Black Tears ceremony. Filipino women from all over the district came for the service. A close friend said she was a gentle mother. According to data collected by the Center for Philippine Concerns, Annabel is one of 6 Filipinas gone missing in Australia since 1980. Who knows the date of this article, however? I'm sure there's more than 6. We still do not know the whereabouts of Azucena Pollard, who in 1987 was reported by her husband, Harry, to have run away from her home in Tumbarumba, New South Wales, taking their baby son with her. Ninita Evans of Melbourne, Victoria, also disappeared in 87. And Jean Angela Keir of New South Wales was last seen in February 88. The police investigated the possible link between Jean's disappearance and the violent unaliving in 1991 of Rosalina Keir, the second Filipino wife of Thomas Keir. Due to lack of evidence, he was acquitted of Rosalina's murder, and no evidence of Jean's situation came to light. Looks like they go on to other Filipinos. I found this amazing article detailing Annabel's life. Let's see if it's still there. New tab, please. It's no longer there. We may, however, be able to find it. Let's copy that information. Save link, copy. Can we copy link? Copy link. And where are we going to paste that? We have something here like a picture or something we can overwrite. What do those pictures look like? There's a picture. No, that's the article. Oh, we had a couple of pictures. There we go. There's the Fiji mermaid. If you haven't seen that, just rewind the show a little bit. You'll see it. Paste that here. Let's go to the Wayback Machine first. That is here under YouTube research. It's the top result. Not the top result, the top menu item. And that URL was this. No. Why did it say Google? Wait a minute. I'm doing something wrong. Oh, wait. It's a Google search? Google.com/URL equals. Can we suss the actual URL? Do I have a text file open? Yeah, I have my patter from tonight or tonight. Let's see. The whole URL. Here we go. Journals. Let's see if that still exists. Wait, start with HTTP. Let's see if that still exists. And we'll do that by duplicating here and pasting here. Okay, now go back to Wayback and try another one. No. Yes. There we go. We have results, which are null results. Click here to search for all archived pages. No URL has been captured for this prefix. I think we're over here somewhere. Where are we? Maybe here. Perhaps here. Always have trouble finding that article. There it is. What's it look like again? Looks like a gray earth. Annabel. Okay. Time to go to the next one, I think. It's 20 minutes past the hour. For this one, we're going to go to Joseph Winnie. And we need a search engine. And that is somewhere here. I think I saved that. Did I not? Oh, it's here. Here. Yeah. And Joseph wanted to know about Michael Tellinger's work on frequency structures in South Africa. Tellinger. So let's look for Michael Tellinger and let's try that one. Sound frequency, the source of energy. That's Spotify. That's only audio. Michael Tellinger. There's hispage.com. Southern Africa. That might be the one. Eldergrown says green tea has a suggestion as well. Thank you, Elder. Let's move that up to here. Eldergrown says, if he wasn't too vain to wear headphones, we could use sound alerts to get his attention. Yeah, that's true. That's a big fault of mine. Isn't that one of the 7 deadly sins? Helen Duncan, Scotland's last witch. Yes, this is from Joseph Winnie. No, this is the one I just got. We'll get there. No, this is from Gotcha Man. Okay, I got to make plans to get there. So let's go here. Okay. Here. And there's our result. And Tellinger's, did we open Tellinger yet? We did not. Let's go to his own website. Where's Africa mentioned? Let's search for it. One out of 9 of Africa. Ancient stone frequency structures. Ancient stone ruins and vanished civilization of southern Africa. Let's try just frequency structures. Michael Tellinger. Frequency structure. Let's go to AI. Michael Tellinger posits that ancient stone structures in southern Africa, covering over 450,000 square kilometers, are not merely cattle kraals as commonly theorized, but rather sophisticated formations based on sacred geometry, rooted in vibrational frequencies and sound. He argues these structures were designed to resonate at specific frequencies, functioning as energy devices. According to Tellinger, sound and frequency are fundamental to creation, with all matter being different densities of vibrational resonant frequencies. Tellinger further claims that these ancient sites were part of a vast interconnected grid system, shaped like circles or horseshoes, with stone channels linking them, indicating a deliberate large-scale design. He suggests the ancients used sound frequencies to shape and mold stone, softening it for construction, a process he believes was facilitated by advanced knowledge of resonance. Okay, so let's find one of those South African things that makes sound. Is there any pictures of them? No. Not a one. Yet. This is his site. You'd think he'd have some made. Oh, here we go. It's an interesting one. Let's see how big that is. Not very. Count 6. There's a channel evidently linking the two structures. So these are supposed to be cattle kraals? What's a kraal? Let's go to regular Google search. That's an image search. Let's go to kraal is a village of huts, typically enclosed by a fence. It's traditional African. Or to drive cattle or sheep into an enclosure. They kraal their sheep every night. Maybe that's where the word comes from. Etymology of the word kraal. All etymology. No, corral etymology. Latin from the Portuguese. No, Portuguese from the Latin and Spanish from the Latin. Used to be curere in Latin. Okay, now we got to find that again. There we go. And we went to his website. 6. So was that a crawl? No, obviously there's a couple of crawls, right? 6 again. Only 5 this time. Missed one. So people were supposed to live in here? Or maybe these are food and water basins for the animals? These don't look very large. I wish there was something here for scale. They look small. Maybe they're like large. They don't look large. I mean, here's the size of the rocks. Obviously rocks that you just pick up when you're like farmers cleaning their field. What would you say it? I don't know how you'd say it. There's probably a word for it. The old farmers who built stone walls out of the stones they dug up from their fields. Green Tea says, now I suddenly feel like I need a crawl. Gotcha Man says, Crawl was a delightful box office bomb. Eldergrown says, I didn't do heavy research, but here's a place to start. HistoricUK.com. That might be an old link, seeing as we're in Africa currently. So we want to check out those crawls, right? We want to see more pictures of them. Ah, here's one from a balloon or something. Ooh, check that out. That was used to store animals. Pretty intensive design there. I mean, the one underlying the geometric figures. These obviously superimposed by Mr. Tellinger. Showing the circle that should encompass them all. I don't understand the meaning of these. Now another circle goes here. But what's the point of these two triangles? That is kind of a triangle, but I would put the apex here. This is an equilateral triangle. Would it be equilateral if it was up here? No, not quite. Almost, but not quite. Green tea says, no doors. Many have rock paths that lead to other circles. Elder says if they had swinging gates, they would have hung above the rock foundation. And we got 2 more to get to. So at 32 past the hour, I'm a little fried. If you haven't noticed, I just obtained my next vehicle. I was tapped for money by that beggar. I think in New Jersey. Yeah, I went through New Jersey. I went through Maryland. I had to go down to Virginia. I flew down, actually. It was an insane amount of money, but I mean insane amount of money. A last-minute flight, just insane amount of money. And I picked because I only like one kind of car. The Buick LeSabres that were produced between 2000 and 2005. The last 4 cars I've owned have been of that type. And it's getting harder to find them. I found the one with the least mileage that I've ever owned, only 47K. And it was a really good price down in Virginia. So that's where I flew to pick it up. And I drove it back. And boy, was that a long drive. And I got back today, a few hours before the show. No time to nap. I usually nap before the show. And I'm really fried, so my apologies. And it's now 34 past the hour. And we're moving on to Gotcha Man. And the story of Helen Duncan, Scotland's Last Witch. Written by Ben Johnson. And that is at historicuk.com. And the author begins, spiritualist, medium, and the last person in Britain to be tried and sentenced under the 1735 Witchcraft Act. The last person. Born in Callendar in 1897, daughter of a cabinet maker. Helen Duncan was a show woman who traveled throughout Britain holding regular seances, during which she would produce the form of dead people by emitting a cloud-like substance called ectoplasm from her mouth. These spirits were said to appear, talking and actually touching their relatives. It was during the years of the Second World War that Duncan's activities attracted the attention of the establishment. In 1941, she spoke with a deceased sailor from the HMS Barham, revealing that the ship had been sunk in the Mediterranean. Although the War Office did not officially release this fact until several months later. The wartime government had been trying to hush up the loss of 861 British seamen when the German U-boat torpedoed the ship. That U-boat was U-331. On the night of the 19th of January, 1944, one of Helen's seances was raided by the police in her then hometown of Portsmouth, where the Royal Navy's home fleet was based. Officers attempted to stop the ectoplasm issuing from Helen's orifice, but failed. After some order had been restored, she was formally arrested. It was alleged the real reason for the raid was due to the official paranoia surrounding the upcoming D-Day Normandy landings. and the fear that she may reveal the date, location, and other details. In one of the most sensational episodes in wartime Britain, Duncan was eventually brought to trial in the Old Bailey in London and became the last person to be prosecuted under the Witchcraft Act of 1735. It hadn't been used for over a century. After a 7-day trial, she was sentenced to 9 months. Thank goodness they didn't hang people anymore. In London's Holloway prison. Ooh, sounds gruesome. We have time to take a look at Holloway. She was even denied the right to appeal to the House of Lords. Politics. Holloway prison. Take a look. And that's got to be somewhere here. It's got to go back to images, of course. We were talking about corral. Would I say coral? I misspelled corral. See what I mean? Holloway prison. An old picture. Friends of Islington Museum, Holloway prison. Here's one. Fairly good resolution. Yeah. The British are not renowned for their compassionate treatment of prisoners, or normally haven't been. Normally are not reputed to be renowned for their early habitation of prisoners, or whatever you say. Housing of prisoners. That looks more stately than it does prison-like. Looks like a castle. These the brilliant observations that Bill's fried mind brings to the air. And I gotta find the. Yeah, we're right here. Okay. As a result of the case, the Witchcraft Acts were finally repealed in 1951. A formal act of Parliament 3 years later officially recognized spiritualism as a religion. It was released in 1944. However, the harassment she faced appears to have continued up to her unalivement. She wasn't unalive, but her state of unaliving. In November of 1956, the police raided a private seance in Nottingham in an attempt to prove fraud. Once again, the investigators failed in their objectives. 5 weeks later, the woman who will always be remembered as the last witch expired. A bronze bust of Helen Duncan, presented to the town of Callander, gives rise to controversy even today, as those with strong religious views object to its public display. As a consequence, the sculpture is currently on display at the Sterling Smith Art Gallery and Museum. And at 40 minutes past the hour, our last topic of the day, from Gotcha Man. Ghost Month. Hungry Ghost Festival. Ghost Stories. Hosted at Steemit by Melancholy. And Melancholy begins. Every 7th month in the lunar calendar is known as Ghost Month, with the 14th to the 17th in certain places marking the Hungry Ghost Festivals. We're in Ghost Month now, the author writes. Most of the big celebrations will occur somewhere during the full moon. Lots of incense, joss sticks, and joss paper burning. Papier-mâché form of material items will be burnt too. Lots of food offerings. If you want to know more about the celebration, I suggest you travel to any Asian cities where there are Chinese residents there. Not too sure about Chinatowns in the USA or Canada or Europe. There are a lot of restrictions there with the local authorities. And I'm not sure about China as well, considering the previous communist ideology. But if you want the real deal, you can find them in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. But that's not what I want to talk about. This is the month, if you've noticed, for lots of horror and ghost movies to be released in the Asian region. There are plenty of superstitions with the Chinese on what not to do and what to avoid during the month. And one of them would be telling ghost stories. It's said that ghosts are released from hell during this month, and they would be allowed to visit their families, get their revenge. The wandering ghosts that are in the earthly realm also profit from the offerings that the living give during the month. The spirits from the underworld are said to be like entertainment. The grist for movies and radio broadcasting, or even the grist for a group of youth gathering to tell ghost stories. I suppose these ghosts wouldn't know if I'm writing about it. Anyway, I'm among the Guelos, literally translated as ghosts too, meaning foreigners, which is what the Southern Chinese used to refer to us as. Now, these stories that I'm about to share with you, okay, a big preamble here. We only have another 12 minutes. Not one graveyard, many, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. There was a township that was relatively a new one, established in 2001 after deforesting a hillside, which was homes to an indigenous tribe, the Temuan. While I was staying there, I had the opportunity to get acquainted with a few illegal immigrants from Indonesia who worked as household cleaners. They stayed with their husbands in a squatter settlement up on one of the hill slopes of an ongoing construction site. According to them, their huts were built along the slopes. Mostly were beside old Muslim graveyards, presumably also indigenous people. Not one graveyard, many. Where is that? On Tuesday and Thursday nights, they could hear the voice of a woman crying. Some of their men got angry at the crying. They shouted at it. They shone flashlights at it, but they couldn't find anything. I asked them if they were afraid. They said they did nothing to these spirits. Therefore, they were not afraid. However, they were afraid of the black ghosts, the Malaysian term for a policeman in uniform. One of them, Ida, used to come out to our condo to clean. Sometimes she was alone in the house while we were out at work. One day I couldn't find her at home and called her. Turned out she was at the swimming pool. She was pale. She said she was washing in the kitchen and heard someone talking in my friend's room. She thought that friend was home, so she finished washing and went to the room. Standing in the room was the apparition of a woman in white, her long hair covering her face. and facing her, facing facing Ida. She quickly grabbed her bags and keys and left. After that, she would never return alone. Nobody knew who that lady was, and my friend continued living in that room. On another occasion, another friend was watching a DVD in the master bedroom. Her poodle, Sasa, was with her. Sasa was a playful animal, and my friend was only watching a movie. Held her attention. Then Sasa turned towards the closed bedroom door. She was growling and barking. My friend thought one of us was home. Sasa continued to bark. My friend told her to shut up. Then she noticed Sasa growling and backing away from the bedroom, retreating into the edge of the window and whining behind the curtains. My friend later confronted us, but none of us was at home when it happened. One time I thought I saw a black shadow passing the kitchen towards the bedroom. It was dusk. I didn't have the lights on, so I dismissed it. Turned out it was around the time Ida saw the lady apparition. All these happened in Ghost Month. Nobody was disturbed except for Sasa. Nothing else happened after that month. So we came to the conclusion it was just a passerby from the other side. After that, for some reason, I moved out. Later on, about a year or so, the friend moved to another unit and stayed with 3 other new roomies. I visited often and always crashed at their place. I was in between jobs. 2 of the roomies were working in the film industry, doing editing most of the time, working at night. Another one worked in a pub, also at night. My friend had her own business, flexible timing. I visited the production house these 2 roomies worked at quite often, most of the time to download ghost story podcasts. Then I'd go back to the condo around 2 or 3 in the morning. One evening I came home around midnight. The editors were at work. My friend was in Singapore. I was in the living room playing with my phone. By then it was 4 a.m. I decided to go to bed. I remember turning off the light, lying on the couch, taking off my glasses, and turning towards the wall. Then I heard the front door open. I looked up from the lights in the corridor. I could make out from the silhouette it was one of the editors. I know my eyesight wasn't perfect, but I was certain it was Sandra. I didn't make a sound. I was tired and I didn't want to make small talk. Then I heard the door close and then the bedroom door close. Then I fell asleep. The next morning, a couple hours later, the other editor called me and asked for my help. I asked her, "Why don't you ask Sandra?" She said Sandra went home to her mother's the day before. I sat up wide awake. Who did I see? I went to the room. No one there. Later, I confronted everyone in the house. None of them were home at 4 a.m. So who did I see? I clearly remember it was the silhouette of Sandra. I wasn't dreaming either, if that's what you're thinking. A few days after that, Sandra was in her room working on her laptop. My friend was still in Singapore. Suddenly, Sandra came to my room and asked if she could sleep with me. I wasn't usually so tired, but I remembered I could hardly open my eyes that night. I remembered she was grabbing my shirt from behind me and I told her to sleep. The next day, Sandra told me she was working on her laptop and she felt someone looking over her shoulder and she got goosebumps. She then said out loud, "All right, you can have the laptop." Then she came to me and asked if she could sleep with me. It didn't stop there. Then she heard the light switch being flipped. And then it was flipped again and again. That was when she grabbed my shirt. When I told her to sleep, the flipping sound stopped. Then she felt someone grab her ankle. I don't know how she managed to fall asleep after that. Okay, we're going to call it, guys. Don't forget to see my show on Wednesday. And don't forget to follow Tina Tomaszewski over to Peter McCarthy's YouTube website, Dark Sayings, because a live show is coming up in 7 minutes. Until I see you next Saturday. May God bless. May God. Geez, I can't believe I can't get the benediction right. Thanks be to God.